This is coffee number 5. I'm your host, Lara Schmoisman.
Hi, you guys. Thank you for being here again at coffee number 5. Today, we have someone really, really special who's been there where you are now. And today, she's in the other side of the business, teaching people how to do it. Jennifer Benson, thank you so much for being here today.
You've been everywhere. I mean, tell us a little bit how you started and how you got here.
Oh, well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love the perception that I'm everywhere because that's what PR is all about, right? It's about kind of getting visibility for your target audience. So that's great that you see that. Well, I started my career as an attorney. I practiced civil litigation for about 4 years. And then about 14 years ago to start my own PR agency, just total 180. Decided that I wanted to have my own business and realized law was not the right path for me in the long term. I wanted to have more flexibility in my life for, managing my own time and working with people that I believed in and building businesses up rather than tearing them down through expensive litigation. So I just one day said, I'm going to open my own PR agency, and I started Jeneration PR. I'm in Los Angeles like you, so we promote beauty, baby, lifestyle brands, and we also have social media marketing. We do influencer relations, and I've been running that business for the last 14 years and still to this day running, bigger than ever. It's so awesome. I'm so fortunate I get to work from home, and I have an amazing team that supports me in that business. And it's been such a gift to be a mom. I have 2 little boys, 7 and 9, and to be a mom and be able to have the flexibility and freedom with my career to be present for them when they need me and spend time with them, and again, work from home and kind of do it around my schedule. That this was such a contrast to the path I was seeing myself go down as an attorney, where that probably wasn't going to be my future. So just knowing how much I love this business and what kind of great, steady, predictable, consistent income comes from a retainer business, I have started to teach others how to have the same type of business with my coaching program. So I have a few different programs, mainly an agency accelerator where I teach others how to launch, grow, and scale profitable PR agencies. And if you don't know how to do PR, I can teach you how to do that too.
So how do you teach someone who they don't know where to start? I mean, you need to learn how to sell yourself. I mean, from very little, we want to get picked up and be in the team that we want to be chosen. We don't want to be the last one to be chosen. How do you make that happen? How can you make yourself likable or attractive to others?
Yeah, that's a totally different question. How do you make yourself it's about packaging your story and telling your story, or offering value to the outlet, the venue, the podcast, the publication that you're aiming to be featured in because you feel it's a great fit for your target market, or because you have expertise that is the right fit for that editorial focus. And really it's about fitting in what you do, what you're known for, or like I represent a lot of brands, trying to get those products and those brands featured in publications that are already running and existing, and we can see the types of things they feature and the types of articles they run, and you can start to get an idea for how you can add value. It's all about positioning yourself in a way that adds value to their readership. So, there's a lot to consider, and I know it's very overwhelming. So the approach that I teach is to go really small, start small and focused. We go deep instead of going broad, and you laser in on a few key places that you really have your heart set on. And the great thing about PR is that there's a lot of momentum that's created from it. It tends to snowball. So if you start with some smaller outlets and you see what resonates, what really gets traction, what's connecting with the media, you can then build on that momentum. And if it's not working and you're hearing crickets, it's not that you're not likable. It's not that they don't want you. It's that you haven't hit the nail on the head yet with how your story or your expertise, your know-how, your unique perspective can fit in with what they're writing about, or that you pitch a story that resonates with the editor and they know it's going to resonate with their target audience.
You just mentioned something really, really interesting about momentum. It's, at the end of the day, it's everything about timing and momentum. So how do you know when it's the right timing? There are some companies out there that they're starting and maybe they're a little ahead. The world is not ready for it. So how do you know that it's the right timing? How you make it the right timing?
Well, in terms of the right timing to pitch the media, I don't know about right timing for if you have like some innovative product, the world just isn't ready for it yet. I think if you have something of value and it solves a need, if you can find the right people that have that problem and your product or your expertise solves their problem, they're ready for it. So it's really, when you start your business is really the ideal time, or when you have a new product launch or something that's new, that's the best time, because the very first thing that editors ask us is this new? When did it launch? Like, we just launched a new skincare brand yesterday, and the brand was around. It just wasn't quite ready for our needs on the PR side. And we asked our client, it wasn't really selling yet, but she had put the website up. We asked her to take it down and say coming soon, so that we can create some excitement around a launch and give it some newness and get people excited to say, okay, this is brand new starting today. Now you can finally access it, versus a website that just sat up for 3 to 6 months with no action. And then the editors say, well, when did this launch? And we say, well, like 6 months ago, but nobody talked about it. So it's really exciting when you're new, when there's a new product, a new brand, something that's new and different. The other time to really think about approaching the media is around holidays and seasonal angles and different trend angles that you can work your story and your expertise into. That's when it's the right fit, because the timing is going to align with what the editors are already going to be talking about. So just lend your expertise to those stories that they're already going to be talking about.
How about promoting yourself? Because I understand that you're teaching also to individuals that they have their own brand, or they are the brand themselves. So how someone can pitch themselves to the media?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think there's a misconception about it, because just pitching yourself isn't going to get you anywhere. It's about what you have to offer. What is your unique perspective on something, or what advice or strategies or tips can you give to help somebody with some challenge they're facing? What is your unique story? And what did you learn along the way in your, kind of journey to get where you are? And how can you share that expertise? How can you share that expertise with an audience that can benefit from your story? And at a minimum, even if your story is inspiring, that's, worthy of telling. So it's not just saying like, I am a PR expert and I'm here if you need anything, or can I come out and share tips? It's a very specific pitch that will get the editor thinking about what that would look like to their readers. How will their readers benefit by having this information? Or how are you lending your voice and your expertise to topics that they're already covering in a unique way? Like, what makes you uniquely qualified to speak about that specific topic? So that's how you think about it. It's not just, that I'm here, let's talk. It's, this is the value that I bring. This is what I can, share with your audience. Or here are 3 different story angles that I can contribute to. And you give bullet points, and then you end your pitch with a call to action and say, how about I write those up for you, or let me know if you're interested in it, and I can send you more information about it, or write it up into a full interview. And you make it very easy.
That's a great tip, just to make it easy for the other. Make it work for the other so they don't have to do the work.
Yes,
so
exactly.
What other tips can you give people just to make it easier on themselves and to get seen?
Yeah, well, really think about what your purpose is for getting press. Is it to grow your email list? Is it to find your target customer? Is it to gain credibility, you know, as an expert, gain some authority? And depending on what your purpose is, it'll help guide your media list that you're reaching out to. So rather than think of the entire world, like I said earlier, this vast opportunity of media outlets, you're really lasering in on a few key outlets that you know are the right fit for your target audience. They're reading it or would really help you establish authority and credibility because it's a well-known outlet. And so, you know, one of the ways to kind of know what those publications are is as you're reading them, like think of the publications you consume, the content you consume, the podcasts you listen to. And when you have that thought in your head, like, oh my God, I could really see myself on this, being interviewed by this expert, or I love this so much, I would be so excited to be featured here. So to make a list of those publications, because you're coming at it from an insider's perspective. You're consuming that content, so you know what they write about. You're not just guessing in the dark about what type of content they cover. You can start to see how you can shape your story to fit in to their structure and format.
Yeah, it's like fine-tuning yourself and your story according to the media that you're approaching.
Yes. There is no one size pitch fits all. There's no mass pitching. Like going broad and throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks is not going to get you anywhere. You have to be targeted and strategic and tailor your pitches. It can be general, body can be the same. You have a general idea, but connecting on a personal level at the very beginning of that pitch so that the editor reading it or the podcaster knows you are a fan and you are aware of what they talk about. You listen, you read, you're sharing an episode that really impacted you. Start sharing that on social media a little bit. Even if you don't have a huge following, it doesn't matter. They will see it. And then when you reach out, there's some familiarity there and they know that you've supported their work and you value their work. And there's an understanding that you know what they talk about so that your pitch isn't out of left field on a topic that they would never cover. So you're giving them something that's positioned for them because you're letting them know, I read your blog. I'm a fan of it and I love the content and I wanted to send something your way that could be relevant to you. And here's my idea.
So at the end of the day is how you connect with people and at what level you connect with them.
Yeah.
I have another question for you and I want to hear your real feel about this. Influencers.
Lay it on me. Okay.
Influencers. It's like a big, big deal these days. And we have big influencers. There's so many people that they want to be influencers. What really takes to be an influencer? And how do you get there? And what are really an influencers for and what they are not for?
Yeah, well, your first question was, how do I feel about them?
Yes.
So I want to start there because there's two sides of it. I represent brands and we have physical products and we look at influencer marketing as another editorial avenue, just like
absolutely, yeah,
a website. There's great opportunity there. And there's trends that happen in influencers and you're going to be like, what are you talking about? But the new trend is nano influencers. The micro influencers were so last year and now it's nano because
explain a little more what nano influencers are.
So micro influencers, I mean, everybody has a different range, but these are under 100,000 followers. They're going to ask for payment in exchange for some kind of placement on their it's usually Instagram, on their Instagram feed or, a blog or in their stories, and every little combination of how they're featuring you is a different fee. And it's kind of our job as the agency to negotiate the best fees, fine. So nano influencers are kind of in the 500 to 5,000. Their content isn't polished. It's more authentic. And the thought is that these folks have a sphere of influence that's more influenced from them because there's a direct connection to them. They're either, a family member, a friend, or like a friend of a friend or someone you met somewhere. So their opinion holds more weight. And so you want to go in that realm for the nano influencers in volume, but usually you can get away with a product exchange for them talking about it. And we have platforms we use that allow us to match with those influencers on certain demographics that are really important, so that we know that the product is really aligning with their personal interests or their personal, like if it's a health issue like back pain, for example. One of my clients targeted Nano Influencers with back pain with one of their products. So that was actually a very successful campaign. But influencers in general, we usually think about these people with like 100,000, a couple million followers. And I look at it from their perspective. They're monetizing what they've put a lot of effort into. They've spent a lot of time to create content. Content is, and you're a content agency. It's a hard thing to consistently create. It's expensive. And for them to have content that resonates and they have reach, and the better ones can actually show that they have an impact. If they have brand partnerships and they can show metrics that show what resulted from their influencer campaigns, then they can command some big bucks because they do move the needle on sales. And it's one of those things where in the PR realm, it's been a little challenging to connect sales directly with PR placements. It's kind of like we talk about brand awareness, but we're not really responsible for sales. Influencers, you can actually see, especially if you give them a promo code or they have a swipe up with an affiliate link, you can see the direct impact that they have on your bottom line. So I don't love it because it's kind of overwhelming. There's so many people out there, but it's a game and we play it. And I think we do a really good job of it. We're really good at vetting the kind of like fake followers, fake content, like not like fake engagement, that sort of a thing, and really matching our clients with the right influencers who are going to speak genuinely about their products.
But at the same time, you are an influencer yourself. Somehow you are a teacher, a mentor, but you're influencing others in going the right way or see the light in their business.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm aiming to be. I think anybody that takes a stand on something, has an opinion, and is willing to share it and put it out there, knowing that it could help somebody, it could benefit somebody, and you start to consistently put content out there, then I think that you can have influence. And it doesn't have to be tens of thousands of people. It can be a core group of people who are your exact right demographic that you are aiming to support. And for me, in my digital content world, I'm aiming to support agency owners because I want to give them more profitability. I want to give them a path to a better business model where they're having consistent, predictable retainer income and they're not killing themselves. They're not just feeling overwhelmed in their businesses. So even if that's 100 people, then I do hope to have influence over them because I want to give them enough to consider that there's another way and that I could be the one that can show them that better way. So, I guess in that sense, I am, but nobody's sending me like free stuff.
Not yet. You never know.
Yeah, I just like to kind of have a position on something and be unapologetic about it. And, it's not for everyone and it shouldn't be for everybody. It should resonate with the right people, and everybody else just tunes it out because it's not for them. And that's my focus.
I always think about this digital world, and it's something that I was lecturing about and I always talk about this with my team, is before, in our time when I was younger, we didn't have the internet world. It was like you will see an ad, you will buy it or not, or you will see it on television, and it was just a one-way street. Now the audience actually have a voice. They can complain. They can say, hey, I like it or I don't like it, or I would like this different. So from the PR point of view or standpoint, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with a negative review? Do you acknowledge it? You just say, nothing happened, or thank you so much, we'll take it in consideration. What's your suggestion?
Yeah, that's usually coming up in the social media realm. And it tends to be a little fleeting. There are certain ways that they do stick around a little longer, like Yelp reviews. And I don't really deal with kind of clearing Yelp reviews. You want to just kind of get better reviews to push them to the bottom. But what tends to happen is that the loudest voices are the ones that feel like they're not being heard. So if there's a brand that has an issue with a customer, usually the customer kind of starts out a little bit reasonable when asking for help. And if that brand ignores them, then they get louder and they get more upset because they're more now mad about not being heard. So if a brand can address them immediately, it's usually on social. There's usually, like, we're monitoring all day, every day what the comments are on social channels. For my bigger clients, they have teams that are doing this because they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on ads. So they get a ton of comments, but you want to address them and make them feel heard and, never really engage. I mean, some of these opinions are just so out there that it's like, you're never going to make that person happy. So if you can move the conversation offline, so there's not a lot of back and forth, that's probably the best move. But addressing them in a way where they feel heard. And I have seen brands do this really well with our clients, where you turn your loudest voice against you into your biggest brand evangelist because they feel like you value them. It's about them being heard and valued. So
you're saying that in this digital world, the PR goes in hand to hand with customer service, creative. It's like basically a lot of things together that they need to work.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of PR, I think of more getting placements on media outlets, whether it's digital outlets, getting an editor to talk about you, getting a podcaster to interview, having a magazine write about you in an editorial fashion. That is still PR. I think influencers bridge the gap between social media and PR because you engage with them on social, but you look at their platforms like another media outlet. So that's like the bridging the gap. And then on social media, you have content creation and curation for all the platforms that your clients may want to manage or you may want to manage for yourself. And then there's the customer service component that goes into it. And that's outside of PR. It could turn into a PR nightmare. Someone could take that brand interaction and then get it going vast, audiences far and wide by amplifying it over social media. So you have to be careful. But in general, just comments on a social media feed isn't really what PR is. That's more customer service using the social media platforms as a way, and community building. We really want to build community. We want to show that brands have people behind them and personalities, and there's connectedness to it. So there's conversations being had, and that's the community building aspect of it. But the customer service, and to be really candid, I try not to be, I'm never the one that does it, but I try to get my team out of it too, because it's ongoing, never ending. We can't check orders and status of delayed orders. Like, that's not our job. We're there to create community. So we will help them create like a customer response matrix that gives standard answers. They're never repetitive. It's just like a sort of a basic response. And then they adjust it for each person so that we know we're giving them the right phone numbers, the right people to contact, we're addressing them the right way, answering their questions correctly. But I try not to get into the customer service aspect. But when we're building communities, if you're seeing somebody upset, you cannot let that comment go unanswered for more than a few minutes, because they will just sit and stew until somebody talks to them. And then if you address it quickly, you can turn them into your biggest cheerleader.
Talking about turning things around, since you guys don't know what just happened, a cat just showed up and in the middle of the screen, and she just jumped.
He jumped into my lap. It's kind of like a joke that this cat always, I just did another interview about 2 hours ago, and he did the same thing. As soon as I'm on talking, maybe he thinks I'm talking to him, I don't know, he jumps in my lap.
So I love to hear stories and how you were able to turn around the situation that you said, oh my God, I don't know how I can do this, but you did it. I love those stories, because I always believe that if you want and you put work and you know what you're doing, you can turn it around.
Yeah. This is interesting because the last thing that I just did was a whole summit on resilience.
Oh.
And it was a great interview because there's so many lessons that I realized that I've learned along the way. So I know you're familiar with the digital side of my business. That's my content and my coaching. And I started out teaching PR, and I created over the course of like a year, when I had a little baby infant and my son was just diagnosed with autism, my older son, during that period, which was so chaotic for me, I created this PR course that I knew was, great. Like, it was all of my know-how, all of the information that I had, accrued over the last 10 years or something. And I put it into this course and I put it out into the world, and barely anybody bought it. And I did all the things, all the launches. And it was so hard not to feel personally affected by it, because it was my expertise and my know-how. And it felt like people not buying it was saying to me. And now I kind of approach it differently. So I've pivoted in my business, and now I realize that the real body of knowledge and structure and strategy that I can offer is how to run a profitable agency. And if you don't know how to do PR, I can also teach you how to do that. So I know clearly now who I serve and how I serve them. And it turns out that that audience wants this content from me, and wants this, coaching, which is great. And it feels really good. But I realized along the way that, and I'm still working hard to find my target audience. So that has been the new challenge. Like, my programs perform, people do really great things in them. I'm attracting the right people, but I'm not getting the volume of people that I know that I can help. And so I realized that every little kind of failure or setback is like a learning opportunity. And I've also detached myself from what those outcomes mean. They mean nothing about me. They're just learning chances, and we grow and we evolve and we get better. And I also, as I struggle, because it's like you work so hard on a strategy and you put it out there, and then it doesn't have the momentum you want, and you're giving so much of yourself, it's really draining. And I always get very drained after I launch my programs. But to get through it, I start thinking of the people who did join my programs and the other people out there who need to know about them, because it will totally change their lives. And I say that because, even one strategy you learn that you implement and you free yourself up from a business that feels like a burden, that's life-changing. If you can create more revenue, that's life-changing. So I just pivot to serving the people who did say yes and invested. And then I also think beyond that to the more people that are out there that I just haven't found yet. And I keep going because I know there's at least one more person out there that I can help. So
we will definitely put all your links in the little excerpt of this podcast, and whoever wants to find your programs, hopefully you get one or two more there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And you never know. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. It was lovely to talk to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura. I appreciate it.
It was so good to have you here today. See you next time. Catch you on the flip side. Ciao, ciao.